take a look at some breakfast items. The one that I'm going to do for you guys in this demo is waffles. Now, if you do not have a waffle maker, you can't do this recipe. I'm so sorry. Waffles are awesome though. This is our waffle maker. I think we got it on clearance from Walmart. It is not like it's Sultan brand, which is I think their own name brand. They're super versatile. You can do lots of stuff with waffle makers now. You can do brownies in them and actually bake them up. There's lots of stuff that you can now do with waffle makers. So I actually think that they're a pretty good appliance, I guess, if you would word that, to have, okay? Now, for this recipe, what we're gonna look at is doing a muffin recipe, basically, but making waffles in the end, which is fantastic. Waffles are awesome. My family eats a lot of waffles. We often do Brinner, which is breakfast for dinner. And this waffle recipe is a staple. You can freeze them and then you can reheat them like Eggos. There's lots of stuff you can do with waffles, okay? So at school, usually I have a 4 waffle maker, but because I'm gonna do a round one, I'll probably end up making more than what your recipe might say because it says 2 waffles, and that's usually for the 8 that you guys would do with our waffle makers at school. But for this one, I might be able to get 3 to 4 waffles, okay? So I am gonna go and plug this in. I'm hoping most of you guys have waffle makers that have green lights and red lights because that's what I've done the recipe for. And then it's gonna be easier to follow the recipe, all right? But for your waffle maker, basically what you're gonna do is just plug it in. I have to put mine at max heat. It depends on what you guys have. You might want to ask your parents if you have never used your waffle maker, just to make sure that you're getting the correct heat for what kind of waffle you want. And my family definitely likes the brown waffles more than the lighter colored waffles, okay? So as soon as I plug this on, my orange light will come up, and then I'm gonna wait until my green light is ready to go before I actually start putting my waffles in there, all right? So what I'm going to do is show you the recipe. All right, and of course the very first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I'm ready to go. My hands are clear. I've got my sleeves rolled up. I've got my apron on, and I am going to wash my hands. I hope your weeks are going good and your weekends and you guys are staying busy. There was a lot of a response last week on recipes, which is awesome. For those of you guys who didn't do my demo last week, please make sure that you're doing the safety demo first. I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, I don't want to do safety, but it's really, really important that you go over that stuff first before cooking. Welcome if you're new. Hope you enjoy. I am not a professional. I'm going to warn you that I'm making YouTube videos, but we'll see how this one goes. Okay, so I've got all my equipment. In your recipe, it does not say a whisk. In the original recipe at school, I do put to use a whisk, but you guys love using whisks with wet ingredients, and that's not what a whisk is used for typically. It's for dry ingredients. So for me personally, I'm going to be using my rubber spatula instead, okay? But muffin recipe, we know the drill, okay? Mix dry ingredients, mix wet ingredients, create a well in the dry, and then add wet to dry. Now with this, you don't actually have to wash the 8 to 10 times that you stir. Waffles and pancakes are really forgiving. Just make sure that you don't like overmix forever, or else you're gonna have really tough waffles, okay? As far as equipment goes, I've got my big bowl, I've got my small bowl. I do have my measuring cups, and I've got my measuring spoons, and I've actually got my metal spatula, my rubber spatula, and my fork, okay? The last item that I seem to have forgotten is my liquid measure, which I thought I had taken out, but I did not. Okay, so I'm gonna take my 1 cup or 250 milliliters of flour, and I'm gonna start by mixing all of my dry ingredients together. And this recipe is gonna use the exact same 4 ingredients that are basic for muffins which is going to be flour, a little bit of sugar, because let's get serious, most of you guys are going to be dousing these waffles in syrup anyways. And I'm going to use my 15 for this. So I'm going to keep and level off, because that's how I measure properly. I'm going to get my baking powder in order for my product to rise. Again, that's my leavener. And I'm going to do 5 milliliters of baking powder for this recipe. Keep and then level off. My last item is my salt. And I only need 2 milliliters, so if I've only got a 2, I can do a 2, or I can do 2 1s if I've got that at home. And again, keep and level off. And I want the salt in this to kind of combat all the sweetness, because that'll give a more balanced waffle. So I'm going to take my rubber spatula and I'm going to mix it. And once I mix it, I'm just going to create my well in the center, which again is a hole in the center of my dry ingredients. Once I've got that, I'm actually going to do my liquids. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side. So for my liquids, I've got my egg, I've got my milk, and I've got my oil. So the very first thing I'm actually going to measure is my milk, because I want to make sure that I've got that. Now, if you know that you are one of those people that needs to crack an egg separately, that's why you've got your small bowl. But if you're comfortable cracking an egg, what I would say is just to mix everything into your liquid measure so that you're not washing more dishes. But if that's you, no judgment, okay? Do what you need to do. So I'm gonna go down again to do my liquid measure, and 3 steps, flat stable surface. I am going to go down, okay, eye level, and then I'm gonna take a look at where my line is and go slightly above, and that's gonna get me an exact measure. Now you can do a substitution for non-dairy milk. That completely works. This recipe, again, even though I'm making it with regular flour, you can do it with gluten-free flour. It's a very versatile recipe, okay? So I've got my non-dairy milk. To that, I'm going to add my egg. Crack it on the edge, push in and pull out, okay? I'm gonna put that in my compost, okay? I'm not just leaving it on my counter, because that is, actually I'm gonna do that right now, because I always tell you guys don't leave this stuff on the counter, and I need to wash my hands because I just got egg on it. All right, the last item I'm going to actually put in is going to be my oil. Now, even though it's a wet ingredient, because I only have 15 milliliters of it, that's 25, that I need to put in, I am going to make sure that I use my dry measure for it, okay? Because I can't go below 50 on my liquid measure. I'm just gonna double check. Yeah, I'm good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna measure this over top of my sink. If you've got a small bowl, you can also use that. And then I'm gonna add it. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take my utility fork, and I'm gonna beat it. And what I'm looking for is for it to change color. It should go yellow. Okay, so it's yellow, all right? Now, if I wanted to get fancy, I could add 2 milliliters of cinnamon to this to make like a cinnamon waffle. The other thing people tend to want to add is vanilla. Personally, syrup usually cancels out any other flavor. So usually you can just taste syrup and that's it. So I don't really think it needs to be fancified. That's just my opinion though. If you guys, a lot of you guys really like adding vanilla to stuff. So yeah, okay, go for it. Again, you would only add about 2 milliliters of vanilla. All right, so I've got my wet, I've got my dry, I've got my well. I'm gonna add it. And I'm gonna mix. And again, if it's not 8 to 10 times, that's fine. What I wanna make sure though is that all my dry ingredients have been well incorporated. So it is going to be chunky, okay? For those of you guys who have done waffle mixes, it's a lot smoother, all right? Right? This is gonna be a bit of a chunkier batter, but that's fine, okay? Okay, so all my dry ingredients is incorporated. That egg really did not want to mix in. Pieces of yolk. All right, so what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna grab my rubber spatula because I'm gonna need it. And for me anyways, I'm actually gonna take my 225 or 125 measure, and that's what I'm gonna use to scoop out because I do not want to overfill my waffle maker, okay? And I'll talk to you guys about that in just a minute while I move on over to my waffle maker. All right, so I have my waffle maker. It's got its green light on, which is awesome. I'm gonna grab a plate so that I can just flip my waffles onto my plate, okay? And I've got my spray. Now, I only need to spray it once. That should be enough for the amount of times that I'm gonna make my waffles. This has a non-stick inside to it, okay? So hopefully it's not scratched or anything, it still works. So I'm just gonna make sure that the waffles do come out nice and easy. So I'm actually just going to shake this. A lot of you guys don't shake spray. And this one is cooking canola oil, but you can use other types of spray. If you've got olive oil spray, you can use that, or vegetable oil spray. And I'm just going to spray this up and down. And then I'm going to start to scoop in. Okay, so my waffle maker works like this. It's got four smaller wedges that kind of look like cheese pieces or triangles. So what I'm actually gonna do is do one scoop, and I'm just gonna make sure that it's even throughout. And I'm gonna put it in the middle. And I am not going to overmix or overfill my waffle maker. Because if I did all of this all around the outside, it would come out the sides, and then you have a huge mess that you have to clean up, okay? So I usually put it into the center. I allow it to all go out to the outsides on its own. So for my waffle maker, I actually have to flip it, okay? And then eventually this green light will go off in a couple seconds. And then once it comes back on, there it is. Once it comes back on, then that's basically my waffle is good to go, okay? Now, taking your waffle out might be a little bit of a tricky thing. I have a rubber spatula that is actually heat resistant up to 450 degrees. So I'm going to use this, but if you do not have one of those rubber spatulas, or if you don't have another rubber spatula, what you can use is a utility fork. The one thing I want you guys to watch though, or a utility knife actually, the one thing I want you guys to watch for though is please do not scrape your non-stick surface, okay? Because once you do, it's not like you can get that fixed, all right? So if you do end up using metal, anytime you've got metal on metal and it scratches through the first tops of stuff. So please just watch with that, okay? But you totally can use it, it's fine. But I'm gonna use my rubber spatula. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get together the stuff that I might need for my waffles. The other thing you want to watch out for, which is totally normal, is this could start steaming out the sides. That's okay, it's baking your waffles. And oftentimes, because it's hot, yeah, I've got some steam coming here, steam will come out, okay? It's not like you're about to explode like a volcano, okay? So for my strawberries, actually what I'm gonna do, I've chosen strawberries to go on my waffles, but I think I told you guys that you can take frozen fruit and then heat it up in the microwave and then put it on top. You can always just stick with the tried and true Aunt Jemima's, or you can cut up fruit. So I am actually going to cut up some strawberries. I think next week I will do a knife demoing for you guys. So if you're not comfortable with knives, maybe just make sure that you've got someone to cut up your stuff. I am comfortable, so what I'm gonna do right now is just top up some strawberries. And you can hear it steaming in the background. And this is just a pairing one that I'm doing. And I'm just making sure that my thumb is on the side and not on the blade. Okay, so then I've got my strawberries for my waffles. And I can start grouping up my dishes. Okay, so my green light is back on. So what I'm actually going to do is check to make sure that it is the right level of doneness. So if it's not that golden brown that I want, all I have to do is make sure that it stays cooking. Okay, so I'm going to check it now.